to the SEC Unfiltered platform. I am your host, Dave Shumate from Mach Sports, and we're here for another one, Ceiling Floor for the 2024 NCAA tournament, and we're talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide, who is coming into the NCAA tournament limping a little bit, would be a good way. I mean, probably injury-wise, and just not playing well. They really hadn't played their best probably since that home game against Texas A&M back in February, right before the Latrell Wright cell concussion issues, and you throw in the Rylan Griffin calf issue as well. So Alabama hasn't been healthy. I saw Latrell Wright cell had his knee wrapped or something against Florida. I think he banged it, said he should be fine. But again, Alabama getting some much-needed rest. They play on Friday as the 4 seed out west in their opening matchup in Spokane against Charleston. But they've only played about 2 games in 2 weeks. Feels like a team that needed some rest. Do they come in with a chip on their shoulder? This is one of those teams, again, that's why I don't always just go with the team who's hot in the conference tournament like some people do. There's some teams that, like a Tennessee, like an Alabama, like a Kentucky, that could come in with a little bit more a chip on your shoulder. And people are like, whoa, it's do or die. Your season's on the line. Why wouldn't you have some motivation? I get it, but some of those teams, like in Illinois, I know this is an SEC channel, but who just won their Big Ten tournament. There's always a team every year that comes in fat and happy after winning their Big Ten tournament. They just don't have the edge like they would with a team that feels like they underperformed the week before. Could that be Alabama? I think there's a handful of those SEC teams. But let's get right to it. Going to the bracket, Alabama, again, the 4 seed out west in the region. The other teams ahead of them in this region would be North Carolina, the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the Arizona Wildcats, who Alabama's played already this year, and then the 3 seed Baylor Bears. So Alabama opened up with Charleston. Coach Kelsey and the boys do a good job. They hadn't lost since early February, but they've only played, I believe, just off the top of my head, 1 or 2 top 100 KenPom teams. So the competition level hadn't been there. It's just a little bit Alabama light. They're an offensive, efficient, great offensive team, especially for their level. They want to play up tempo. Defense leaves a little bit to be desired, just like Alabama, where defense leaves a lot to be desired. But again, this is like a little bit of Alabama light. And for people who don't understand, this will be an easy first round 13-4 upset for people. But Alabama traditionally this year has lost to really good teams. They haven't lost to teams that they should beaten or teams that are worse than them. Go look at the Indiana State matchup. They beat them by 30. Liberty, I know they're not in the tournament, but another quality mid-major team they beat by 50. Alabama beats teams that have lesser athletes, and that's what Charleston had. So I think they'll get by this game. So I think the ceiling for Alabama, they get past this, they would obviously beat St. Mary's or Grand Canyon, which St. Mary's would be a total just battle of style. St. Mary want to limit those possessions. Alabama want to get up. So that'll be a challenge for Alabama, but we're talking ceiling. They would get by that. Then they're playing either North Carolina as a play-in 16 seed or the winner of the 8-9 matchup between Mississippi State and Michigan State. Alabama's seen Mississippi State twice already this year, beat them twice. They saw Michigan State out in Portland in that Nike Challenge tournament, what is it, CB tournament. They saw them last year. They beat them last year, but it has nothing to do with this year. But moving on, let's just say Alabama, if Alabama's shooting well, playing well, they even play average defense, they can beat anybody in the field. So let's go ceiling. I think Alabama ultimately could beat either of the 3 teams of North Carolina. Certainly they beat Mississippi State already twice. They could do it again. And I know it's hard to beat a team 3 times in one season, but they could do it. They've proven they've done it twice, away for in Starkville and in Tuscaloosa. And then you got Michigan State, who I think they could beat as well. So Alabama could easily get to the Elite 8 if they're playing well offensively, shooting well. And again, people talk about the defense. The offense hasn't played. They hadn't shot well from the 3. And when over half your shots are from 3, like they have been from the last month, you got to start making some. Maybe Alabama, there's only 2 games in 2 weeks, get some miles off their feet. Their guards, guys like Aaron Estrada, who's been dealing with a back injury, Mark Sears, who didn't look comfortable Friday night against Florida. They've been putting a lot of mileage on those legs because Latrell Wright cell's been out. Rylan Griffin's been out. This is the most healthy Alabama's going to be. And again, they've only played 2 games in 2 weeks, so they should be rested. So that shouldn't be an excuse. If Alabama's shooting well, even plays average defense, they could beat North Carolina and certainly beat Mississippi State, Michigan State. If they get to the Elite 8, again, I just don't know if Alabama can play defense consistently well for 4 straight games to get to the Final Four. So I'm going to put the ceiling. I'm going to cap it right there. I think they would lose to Arizona in Los Angeles in the Staples Center, which would probably be a massive Arizona home game. They've already played this year, Alabama and Arizona, in Phoenix, which was already an Arizona home game. Alabama was up late with about 8-9 minutes, but faded, even had a double-digit lead in there. Just a bad matchup, though, with Bello and them. I don't think Alabama could play. And it's nothing against Nate Oats. I think this roster was constructed out. It's not his fault. They're missing a key piece in Charles Bediako, who they thought they were coming back, was going to be a real rim protector. Guards aren't defending as well as they had last year. Remember, Brandon Miller could defend as well as anybody. Namari Burnett, Jaden Bradley, who's coincidentally now is on Arizona. So I think the ceiling for the Tide is definitely the Elite Eight. Floor, let's talk worst case scenario. If Alabama doesn't defend, they can lose to anybody. So I think the floor is Charleston. They could lose in the first round. I don't think that'll happen. Just like I mentioned with Auburn, the floor could be Auburn losing to Yale. A lot of people are going to pick that. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's not outside the realm. I mean, if Alabama's not defending, they're not knocking down shots. Charleston could certainly beat Alabama, but again, I don't think that will happen. But I would lean towards Alabama's floor being that first round. If you want to get a little bit more realistic, could definitely lose in the second round to St. Mary's or Grand Canyon, especially with the way St. Mary's wants to slow it down. But again, I think the floor would be that first round against Charleston for Alabama. But again, the ceiling, Elite Eight. Elite Eight, certainly. If Alabama is shooting well and just plays average defense, they could beat anybody. I just don't think they can go put it together for 4 straight games, really from a defensive end standpoint. And then floor, I think it's probably losing the first round against Charleston. I don't think that's going to happen because, again, they're diet Alabama. They want to play as fast as possible, get as many shots up as possible. Coach Kelsey does a phenomenal job for the Cougars. But I think Alabama is beating teams they should have beaten this year. You're going to see some lazy takes, people picking Charleston to beat Alabama. But I think that you haven't looked deep into Alabama. Alabama's handled business against teams equal. They've handled business against teams that they are equal or better than, especially athlete-wise. And they're better than College of Charleston. It's been against the really good teams they struggle. The Tennessees, the Floridas, the Kentuckys, the Auburns. I know they beat Auburn once. But the Arizona, Creighton, teams they played non-conference, Purdue, ultimately finishing that. They're not getting blown out. I mean, I know they lost to Florida twice here in the last few weeks. But again, can Alabama get their feet back underneath them? This is the most healthy they have been since really February when they played Texas A&M at home in Coleman Coliseum when they had Latrell Wrightsell and Rylan Griffin both healthy. But again, ceiling for Alabama, Elite Eight, shooting well, just play average defense. Floor, they still can't defend. They could lose to Charleston in the first round. But again, I'm your host, Dave Shumate from Mach Sports. Again, it's all things SEC here on the SEC Unfiltered. All things basketball, football, and football, and baseball. Obviously, March Madness. We'll have a ton of content this week. Spring football. Missouri just wrapped up their game. We'll have some of that content. And then baseball. We're heading into the second weekend. We just went to the opening weekend. But again, I appreciate you joining us on this segment. Please hit the like, subscribe, notification bell to get all things SEC Unfiltered, SEC content all the time, 365, 24/7. Again, if you like this content, keep coming back to us, and I hope you have a fantastic day.